Welcome, welcome, welcome to this edition of SAGIONIC 1027. We are so glad that you decided to join us today and with us. Oh my goodness, I can't wait for our guest to meet this gal. My guest today is Kay Lee Fukui, and she is quite the woman. She is quite the entrepreneurial. She is quite the what do I want to call it? Multitasking steward. That's what I want to call her, multitasking steward. And I'm just elated that she decided to join us today and how much wisdom, insight that she's going to share with our viewers today. So Kay Lee, welcome to our broadcast today. I am so glad that you decided to join us.
Thank you so much for having me, Sean. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Yay! And so, Kay Lee, since today's broadcast is all about you, okay, when you were thinking about this broadcast, you get to decide at what point in your life you're going to drop viewers down into. You get to decide, are you going to go an inch deep? Or in some areas, are you going to go, oh gosh, did he really take me down 3 miles deep, right? You get to decide. And so what do you think is important to share with viewers today?
Well, what comes to mind when you say that is probably going deep when I was a child. I remember memories, people would be over, friends of my family, and my dad would say stuff like, oh, children are to be seen and not heard, and just do what you're told. I didn't really have a voice. You don't question people, you don't ask questions. Authority, you just do whatever you're told. And so being raised in that environment with no voice as a child really caused a lot of challenges for me and really into my adulthood as well. Because I remember when I was in school and sometimes I didn't understand something and I never wanted to be the one that would raise my hand and ask because I would always act like, oh, I know what's going on, or don't bother them, or it's a stupid question. And so sometimes I would really struggle because I didn't know what was going on. And I think looking back, if I was able to ask questions and have a voice, it probably would have been just some little small thing that I needed to know to figure out how to do the word problem.
That's so good. And I bet there's so many people listening that could raise their hand and say the same thing happened. Right? And so how do you think, though, I always like to, if there's a light that's going to shine, right? And knowing that there's nothing we can do to change the past, right? It's there. It's there. So how did that segment of your past direct what you were going to determine to do in your future?
Well, I had found myself making a lot of bad choices because I didn't know what was going on a lot of the time, or I didn't have clarity. And so then I was married my first time and it didn't end up working out at all. I made a horrible choice. I married a drug addict and I didn't know it, never done drugs a day in my life. And when that all blew up and my mom passed away, a couple months after he left, I needed help. I hit rock bottom. So I ended up getting counseling for myself. And that was a process of finding my voice. What was important to me? What did I like? What did I want to do? That it was okay to ask a question. It's okay to say, you know what? I think I'd rather have water as opposed to that Coke.
Wow. Isn't that just, when they think of it, you have the terminology that many people know. You are a product of your environment, right? And literally, until we realize we have a choice, we can change things. We don't have to be, you've got some people who, say for instance, I was communicating with one of my children. My oldest is about to be 37 this year. And I was communicating to him that, not perfection, but that you happen to be raised in an environment where you had a mom that was continually seeking more knowledge, right? Continually seeking, I couldn't be stuck. I just, because I was raised in a stuck environment in my own mind. I was raised in a stuck environment. Let's see. Oh, wait, I too married somebody addicted to drugs in my first marriage.
Oh, no.
bless his heart. I pray over him. I pray over him. But so then when you realized that you had a choice, okay, what was like one of those first things that you were like, wait a minute, I could do this? What were one of those first aha moments when you broke away from this not so healthy environment that you began a journey of growth for yourself?
I remember the first time I said no to somebody. It was so hard because our family, our way of dealing with conflict is we just walked out of the room, hung up the phone on each other. And the first time I said no, it was so uncomfortable. Oh my gosh. But looking back, that was a huge aha moment for me because then it opened the door for me to be able to say no further down and to be able to have those challenging, hard conversations that I frankly didn't want to have. We just stuffed it under the carpet and then we just exploded. So that was very empowering the first time I said no.
Yeah, that's really good. Because when you said no to something or someone, right, you were actually saying yes to yourself. Right?
Exactly.
So once you got past that inner new mental turmoil, how did you begin a growth process? Because you're still there. Not only are you still there, but you were in a space of wanting others to know that they too have a choice, right? So, did you change your career? Did you relocate? What are some things that you did that helped you to say yes to what it is that you desired in life?
I had to start hanging out with different types of people that supported me. And it wasn't necessarily my family, but it was friends that would allow me to be myself and say how I felt and support me and love me through it all and not have these unrealistic expectations on me to be perfect and to do everything that they wanted.
Yeah. And so do you remember those moments of like, wow, I was really proud of myself because I stood up for myself, right?
Yes.
Do you have any of those highlighted moments where you can protect names involved when you stood up for yourself, right? But just focus on how it made you feel to experience standing up for yourself.
I remember there's one person in my life that he will ask a question and I will say no. He'll want me to do something for him. I'll say no, and he'll just keep going and going. Keep asking the same question. And I said, you can keep asking the question all you want, but I'm going to say no. And then I told my husband, I said, okay, this person's probably going to try and go through you to get me to say yes, to come back around to me. And so I said, so I need you to stand firm with me. And so I just said no. And then I said, I don't wish to have this conversation anymore after 10 times of him asking me. And then I just excused myself. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of myself. I didn't break down and give in.
That is so good. That is so good. Because that's important, right? Because sometimes we have to make that call on our own, to stand on our own. But then other times we can reach out to support systems that are there for us to back us up, right? And so in changing your environment, you probably just didn't change your environment once, right? You probably had, okay, here was the first step, and then you were around a whole new group of people. And then there's probably been progressive steps, not to discredit the bottom step, or I don't want to call it the bottom step, not to discredit the initial step of a new environment with new people, right? But how have you progressively been repositioned amongst other people, and how have you benefited from that?
Well, let's be honest, I'm a work in progress, so nothing happens overnight. And I'd like to say, oh, it just gets so easy, but it's gotten easier. But I wouldn't say it's it's easy. I pray a lot and I ask the Lord. I'm like, Lord, He's one of my biggest supporters. I'm like, what do you want me to do in this situation? Yeah. And I also have my friends pray for me.
Yes.
And I try to keep myself around people that have a lot of different types of personalities, if that makes sense, so they can see things differently than I can.
Okay.
And I ask for advice and counsel from people that I feel like are godly. Those are
That's
some of
really
the things.
good. And, for all of our viewers, Sister Sean's going to, flash a word up in there. And that is that there's a verse in the Bible that says, blessed is the multitude of counsel, right? And so, here's something fun for you, Kay Lee. Within the last couple of weeks, there was a special situation that took place in my life that, kind of was mentally beating me up a bit. And so I reached out to a leader that I know. And when I reached out to this leader happened to be, going somewhere with two other brothers in the Lord that I really respect. And I was like, what? Two for the price of one? He goes, oh no, you got three here, right? So I shared three brothers in the Lord I really trust, and my husband is good friends with all of them. And I, explained it, the overview. And then I asked them, please bless your little sister, right? And so as they began to pray for me, I saw a vision in the spiritual realm. I saw them take a piece of their armor to repair the dents in my armor. And I was like, what, Lord? This is so cool, right? But how it literally says two are better than one, for if one falls, he has the other to pick him up. But woe be to him who falls and has no one to pick him up, right? Mm-hmm. And so share how there's moments of outside, but I love how you said your best support system is the Lord, right? So whether it be on a personal level, let's stick to the personal level first, and then we'll jump to how you've been directed other ways. Share an insight where nobody knew anything about a situation in your life but God. And how when he downloaded his wisdom, sight, or encouragement to you, you were like, oh, Lord, thank you so much.
Can you repeat the question? I didn't hear the whole thing, Sean.
Yeah. So share how there was a moment in your life where only God knew about, something that was going on. Because it could have been just, from the past, or, trying to, push it aside, or in the given moment where the Lord swept in as that wisdom's voice, where you were tickled by how he responded to a thought or a situation that only you and he knew about.
I'm thinking here. I had a thought that come to mind, but it wasn't really what you were asking me. So now I'm trying to think of something else. I was thinking of my husband. I was upset with my husband, and I just wanted to give him the business. And the Lord told me, "You need to go apologize." And so I'm having this conversation with the Lord. Yes, I'm arguing with him. Lord, it's his fault. I don't want to do it. You make him. And he's like, no, you go do it. So I'm having this big old conversation. And then eventually I went and said to my husband, honey, I'm sorry. Because it was some stupid little thing, like he left the cap off the toothpaste or something. You know what I mean? So it's like, so then now I look back and I chuckle because I'm like, yeah, was it really that big of a deal, Lord? You're right. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, that is hilarious. He knows all of our things, right? And and that's beautiful. And so, viewers don't know this yet, but I get the honor of interviewing Kaylee's husband as well, but then them as a team. And so, when you were thinking about just you and I meeting, what is important to you that as a carrier of wisdom that you want to release to others so that they can be encouraged by your story, your testimony?
I want to encourage women. Just because I made a bad choice on my first marriage, I want to encourage women that there's hope for the second time around, because I married the best. Oh my gosh, the Lord gave me the ice cream with the cherry on top and the whipped cream with my husband. And I just want to say that statistically, I should have married the same person, different name as my first husband, but the Lord healed me, and I did a lot of work, and I was bound and determined, Lord, we're not going through that rodeo again. And so I want to give hope to women that have been married before, or they're just out there trying to find the love of their life. To don't get discouraged and don't settle. Yeah. Wait and get the right ones that the Lord has picked for you.
That's right. That's right. And can you talk a little bit about work? I'm of the mindset that there's no fast track, right? So I'm serious because people don't realize there is no fast track, right? And so,
Hmm.
can you give some of the steps that to help others and aid them in their journey of healing? What are some of the steps that you would put under the category of work? You did the work.
Well, I was in counseling, and that took a lot of, and it's more than just going to counseling, it's being able to have the conversation with the counselor about what the family of origin, what was the root? Why did I have such a hard time saying no? And we came up to the conclusion it was my childhood, just not having a voice. So we uncovered that. And then she says, okay, the scenarios are going to keep coming in your life, and they're going to keep coming over and over, these same people. And what can you do to change that? And so we came up with the plan. And then she's like, okay, are you going to be able to say no? I said, I don't want to say no to them, but I can say no with the Lord. We invited him to come in. And so we did a lot of different scenarios, role played. She's like, okay, get your girlfriends behind you and rally, because a lot of times the same people are going to come at you with the same ammunition, or Satan uses the same tactics. And so know what to expect ahead of time, because it's going to happen, so you're not caught off guard. So I said, okay. And then when it happened, I told all my girlfriends, I need to have this hard conversation. I said, I just need you to pray for me, because it's challenging. So I would have the hard conversation with the person in my life. And then afterwards, I would give myself a good cry for happy joy tears, like, oh my gosh, I did this, Lord, we did this together. Something that I hadn't been able to do all my childhood and some of my adult life, and celebrate those accomplishments.
That's so good, Kaylee. And I like how you guys created, like, let's say, what about this? Let's say, what about this? Let's say, what about this? Just this last week, I had the honor of joining with a group of business leaders that you and I are both familiar with. And one of the gals there, Susan, said, sometimes it's good to get around a group of like-minded business people, and then present to someone who's trying to engage in a business avenue or whatever, business venture. Let's think of all the worst things that could possibly happen, right? And I was like, what? I've never heard of this before. Now I've lived it in my mind, because I think once you've been through trauma, you try to role play in your own mind on, if this happens, how would I react? Right? If this happens, what would I do? Right? But that's really good, and I'm sure that benefited you greatly to do that. And so, letting go of the past to engage in futuristic hopes, right? Aside from, because counseling is traditionally, maybe an hour or so a week, right? You were still left with your own mind. So share with viewers how you learned, I like to call it mind management. How did you learn mind management?
So I try and journal every day and just dump everything down. Doesn't matter what the thoughts are, if it's a complete sentence, just dump it, get it out of your head. Has really helped me a lot. And another thing is, when I get triggered or feel something comes up inside of me, I try and excuse myself if I'm around other people, and I get with the Lord. And I'm like, Lord, I just want to I want to tell this person how I feel and just let loose, because that's how I was raised. But I know that's not okay. I need to have self-discipline. So I get with the Lord and I'm like, Lord, I really need you to help me in this area. And I'm going to sit here with you until you come in and I can feel your peace, Lord, and that and you comfort me. And then I'll ask him, Lord, what is that issue about? And I'm like, Lord, we need to really work on this. And then he'll usually reveal it to me. And I'm like, oh, that's what it is. And there's something about, once you realize what it is, that you can recognize it a little bit easier the next time and the next time and the next time. When it pops up, hopefully I can recognize it. I'm like, oh, I see you. that's fear trying to pop up on me again. And then catch it sooner and go spend time with the Lord and say, Lord, I need you to help me in this area. And I need you just to fill that need, that void, whatever it is, that only you can fill.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. I can liken to that because, you know, there was something that happened within this last year, and something was rising up in me, and I'm like, what is this, Lord? What is this? Very uncomfortable feeling that was from within me, right? Not, it wasn't, there was nothing in the seen realm that would warrant such feelings, right? And just, I like that we can ask him, ask the Lord, because it says the Lord is an ever present help in times of sorrow. And when something's rising up in you, that is a sorrowful moment. But he's so faithful that if we ask him, right, it says you have not because you ask not. And if we think of, you know, back in the day, there was I'm 55. And so back in the day, we had, they call them PMA books, right? I just ate them up. PMA books, right? Positive mental attitude. But it was all about our trains of thoughts, right? You know, just our trains of thoughts. But when we go back to the creator of the human brain, I like to think it helps things a lot better, you know? And so how have you been able to take your journey to encourage others?
Well, part of it is, I believe, is when I get triggered, taking responsibility of that and not saying to my husband or whoever it is, oh my gosh, you making me so mad, or you look what you made me do, or I can't believe you spoke to me like that. Taking responsibility of what was my part in it. Did I need to ask a clarifying question? Because sometimes I heard something and I just ran with it, as opposed to asking him, what did you say again? Can you clarify that? Because sometimes I didn't hear him correctly and I just ran with something that he didn't say. Or a trigger inside of me has nothing to do with him. I just want to be mean, as opposed to taking part in what's going on with me. This probably has, a lot of times when we get triggered, it has nothing to do with the other person. It's something within us that gets.
Yeah. That's good to take. So this last year, the Lord gave me a phrase. I actually gave it to somebody I interviewed, but own it, to not owe it.
Mm.
Own it, to not owe it. Because the owing it is, oh gosh, got to eat those words.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Lord pushing us, you will go say you're sorry right now.
Yeah. I'm sure he probably doesn't have those conversations with you, Sean. But
oh God, Kaylee, I remember my husband and I have been married almost 20 years, okay? And I remember the first major disagreement, right? It had to do with one of our children, and I remember him telling me the way something was going to be, right? I got up right in his face and I said, that's fine, but you just need to know that there is nothing in my being that agrees with you.
you even remember that. Wow.
Oh, God. And I even withheld on some of those emotions right there because I was just like, I had to let him know. Okay, you're the end all voice, right? That's it. I knew there was no negotiating, right? But I just had to let him know. But you know what? Even though I was able to verbally communicate my mental stance, right? I still yielded to the leadership because it wasn't anything of cruelty, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't like I was yielding to something that was going to change the trajectory of my life or the child's life, right? Anyways, so funny, Gosh, it's so funny.
But hey, at least we can look back and laugh now, right?
I even remember one day one of my children said to me, Mom, I don't think like you do. And I was like, what? What do you mean you don't think like I do, right? Just so share something with us funny that I don't know whether it was a growth space whether it was a growth space. Share a growth space with us that you weren't like, oh yes, I'll do that at first, but after you said yes to the new growth space, you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad he pushed me.
Okay, so this is one of them. I have had so many prophetic words, Sean. It is crazy about speaking in front of large groups of women
Okay.
or just people in general. And I was like, Lord, you've got to be kidding me because, as I said, I didn't have a voice, and at getting in front of people, I am not comfortable at all. And I wrestled with that for a very long time. And I have a husband that is good at so many things. And so I would say, oh, let him speak, you know. And the Lord finally said to me, you cannot ride your husband's coattails. You need to come alongside of him. And I'm like, what? I'm like, Lord, you got to be kidding me. And so then I said, Lord, I will do it. And I told my husband, because we work together, I said, honey, do not go and ask people for me to come and speak. Okay. I'm like, if the Lord wants me to do this, he's going to have to do it. And so he goes, okay. So then he would do the speaking. And I ended up joining Toastmasters because I am being obedient to the Lord. You know, I'm not thrilled about it because I tried to negotiate. I'm like, Lord, I'm very adventurous. Can we pick anything but speaking? I mean, seriously. Is this? And he's like, this is not negotiable. I'm like, oh, gotta kid me. And so I joined Toastmasters. I remember they have, it's called Table Topics when I think it was like the first or second time I went, and it's impromptu. They ask you a question. And I thought I was going to have a panic attack. I didn't. And I made it through, and I'm still working on it. I've come a long ways, let's put it that way, and I'm happy and I'm proud with all the progress and the growth that I've made. But it was really challenging and a big struggle for me because I didn't want to be seen. I was afraid I was going to be embarrassed and shamed in front of people like I was growing up. And so I just wanted to hide in the corner and be behind the scenes. So,
Yeah.
so thank you for helping me overcome that, Sean, by having
And Sister Sean is going to just pull more stuff out, okay? So Kay Lee, I want you to think about this. I want you to go back to that moment of the panic attack, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I would like you to do. So you know how the word tells us that the word of God is sharper than any two-edged sword, and it divides to soul and sunder, bone and marrow, joint and ligament, okay? Go back to that moment where you said you thought you were going to have a panic attack. Now literally go back to that moment. And how did you take dominion over your emotions in that moment?
thinking here. I prayed about it and I said, Lord, if you want me to do this, then you're going to have to give me the words. And he did. I won't say it was easy because sometimes I hear people say, oh, if you get a prophetic word, the Lord just dumps everything into your lap and it's simple and easy. It's no struggle. I wouldn't say that's been my case at all.
Okay.
But I don't want it to hold me back from what the Lord has for me and his best. And I'm like, okay, this is something I can do. This is something Lord and I can work on together and not allow fear to hold me back, which so much of my life it did. And so I am fearless and I want to live that way because that's how the Lord created me.
I love it. I love it. And I love that you chose to hone in on the word fear because really that was the root, right? Mm-hmm. I remember in 2000, I was on the phone with somebody and it was at the very onset of what was going on in 2020. And I mean, it hit hard here in the U.S., on the West Coast, in Oregon, right? And I'm like, Lord, I need you to switch up this word, right? And all of a sudden, it was like there was floating letters everywhere. Like I was in my garage in front of, we have 2 washing machines in our house, but I saw all of these letters floating and I'm sitting there like a little girl thinking, what are you doing? This is so wild and fascinating while I'm on the phone with this person, right? All of a sudden, the letters rearranged themselves in front of me on a wall. And it was R, revering A, almighty, E, eternal, F, Father. And I was like, oh my gosh, revering almighty, eternal Father. And because there's a statement that says faith is the substance of things hoped for. That's the word, right? But then we've heard fear, false evidence appearing real, right? But the Lord literally flipped it, revering almighty, eternal Father. And so, okay, so what are some other steps you've taken? You know, Toastmasters, that's fabulous. So what are some other steps, character building steps that you've taken to develop you, because you are God's workmanship created in Christ Jesus?
Well, one thing the Lord brought to my mind is like, because I want it to be perfect and look a certain way before I do things, but then that holds me back and keeps me from going forward. And the Lord says to me, you know what? I want you to step outside of your comfort zone, because if you're only doing things that you can do, the Lord's saying to me, you don't need me. Where's there stepping out on the boat and walking on the water if you're only staying within your little sphere? And I'm like, okay, Lord. And he reminded me of the people that he used, the apostles that he used in the Bible. A lot of those were not, they were undesirable people, it says in there. You know what I mean? They're unusual people, not the people you would think he would have picked to do some of the miracles and the things that he did. And so I'm like, okay, Lord, I will step out. I'll put my toe out there. You have to meet me. And I just keep trying to do baby steps daily. You know what I mean? And nothing huge, but they add up a lot quicker than you think they do. So joining the Toastmasters, I go once a week. My husband and I, we have a podcast. I remember when he asked me about, would you like to start a podcast? And I looked at him and I said, are you crazy? No, I don't want to do that. No, absolutely no. And then a month later, I came back and said, you know what? I think I can do this, because for me, being on the podcast with him is really supportive, because he works around me and is very encouraging. And I know he's not going to put me on the spot. He's got my back. And knowing that helps me tip my toe in the water even deeper. And I've really come to like it, Sean.
Yes.
All the wonderful people that we've come to know and meet and hear their stories.
That's right. And I want to tell all of our viewers that underneath this YouTube video, you'll see the word more. If you click on that word more, you will be able to access Kay Lee and everything that she's a part of. And that's a huge blessing. And they're in the 170 and change in their episodes of their podcast. And I'm listening, trying to get in as much as I can. I'm like, oh my gosh, I really like her. Oh my gosh, I really like her. Oh my gosh, I really like her, right? Oh my gosh, I really like her. But I love
That's
people.
so sweet.
I love the uniqueness of people, because I truly think you could, how would I say this? This is how I'm going to say it. As the years have gone by, and as I look back, I think a discouraging theme, I'm going to call it a theme, a discouraging theme that I have heard amongst the body of Christ is basically that humans are nothing until they accept Christ. And I think that is the furthest thing from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Because God, the Lord God Almighty, created every single human is in his image. And then unfortunate environments corrupted the seed in which they were created, right? So as you have gone through discovering you, right? How has that helped you to see the beauty in others?
It makes me want to, you're right, it is beautiful in others. It makes me really want to encourage other women and people and think, I'm like the girl, if I'm having a party, I want to invite everybody, want them all to come. And so I want to encourage other people, hey, if I can do this, you guys, You all can do it as well. Do not let fear or anything hold you back from your dreams and moving forward. And it's okay that it's going to take work. It's okay that it could be challenging. All those things, it's okay. Don't wait around for the easy button. And we've all had setbacks, unfortunately, but that's kind of how life is. We need to pick ourselves up, get back on the boat again, and move forward and allow the Lord to use us.
That's right.
Allow our tragedies, our past, our trauma to help move other people forward because we've overcome it ourselves.
That's right. Because failure is stopping,
Mm-hmm.
right? Success is never stopping, right? Failure is stopping. Success is choosing to never stop, right? Because one thing I like is I like lines, lines. Okay, I like lines. Like you go to the big warehouse stores and there's lines, right? And I like lines, and I like to look around when I'm standing in these lines. And like, okay, Lord, who needs to be encouraged, right? So my last trip to one of these warehouse stores, I'm looking around and Lord, who needs to be encouraged? And he's not highlighting anybody. So I decided to talk to the guy behind me. And I said, you know what? I really like lines. And he's by himself, right? And he looks at me like, what? What is she talking about? She likes lines. I go, oh yeah, I like to stand in lines and wonder, because even though people may appear to have all of their stuff together, there's always stuff going on behind the scene that are hardships. And I like to ask the Lord, who needs to be encouraged? And he goes, and he kind of gave that nervous laugh. Right? You know that little nervous laugh people get, right? And I turn around, I'm smiling because I'm like, yep, he was the one. Right? and we're getting, I'm like, got all my purchases in my little basket, and I turned around and I said, you were the highlighted one today, don't you? And he goes, I know I was. And he said it uncomfortably.
Oh, and who said the Lord doesn't have a sense of humor?
And if we think of this for a second, Kay Lee, you talk about how after you spent the time to declutter your own mind, how your mind then became available to occupy thoughts for others.
That's interesting that you say that, because then you make room for the positive. Because if the negative chatter is so loud all the time, it seems like it's harder to notice the possibilities and all the different things out there that you can do. If you're so busy listening to all the negative things, it's easy to overlook the opportunities. And my husband's really good at this. He's good at seeing things through different lenses than me. And so he'll be like, honey, have you ever thought about this? Or what about that? And I'm like, no, I don't want to look at it that way. What are you talking about? That's not right. And then I'll think about it. I'm like, oh, you know what? That is a totally different way to look at it. He'll be like, honey, that's an opportunity. And I'm like, what do you mean that's an opportunity? And I look and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. That is an opportunity. Because sometimes you just don't see it if you're got the negative chatter in front of your own face or your own eyes, or you hear it until somebody else points it out to you. And then you're like, oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. And I like that. I've never heard that verbiage, negative chatter, right? I love it because, if we just take Kay Lee, because today's, broadcast is all about Kay Lee. And if we go back into your childhood, okay, where you were isolated mentally, right? You were okay. So how old were you when you came to know Jesus? Let me ask you that.
I'm going to say I was probably around 5. I don't remember. My mom took me to church, shook us all to church when we were kids. So I know it was sometime in my childhood. I don't really remember the time. I just know that I did.
Okay. And where did you geographically grow up?
I'm in California.
Okay. I spent 5 years in California. I lived I started in San Diego, And then I moved up to the LA area in Bellflower specifically. And then I lived in El Toro. And then I bounced to Seattle for X amount of years, my hometown. And then to Oregon for the last 27 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oregon's the happy medium because you know, if it's gray, it's raining, but if not, it's blue skies, right? Whereas in Seattle, it could be gray whether it rains or not.
Okay. And in California, we can't get enough sunshine, so.
I know. It's beautiful. I loved it. I loved my years I spent in California. Just beautiful. So if you were to give a person step one, okay, they're stuck, right? And you get to pick however many points you want. They're stuck. They're stuck, Kay Lee. What would be step one for a person who is just like so stuck? They feel like, okay, what's the princess with the mattress and all the peas, right? They feel like they feel like they're on the underneath the bottom mattress. Okay, what would step one be for that person today?
I would say for them to pray and have the Lord reveal to them what it is. And then the other thing is get yourself around the most encouraging, fearless people that you know. Surround yourself with those kind of people. Because if you're around them, they are going to rub off on you. And they're going to encourage you. They're going to see things through different lenses than you. And they're going to believe in you.
That's brave. That's brave. That's bravery, Kay Lee. That's brave. I mean, I'm serious. That's brave. That's a brave first move, right? We should think of an acronym for brave.
I'm sure you'll come up with one.
Hold on. You got to help me out on this because being, we could do being rescued or being risky. I like rescued better because risky could take us off on the wrong way. Okay, so being rescued, attentively viewing everyone.
You got it.
Write it down. That is so good. Being rescued, attentively viewing everyone. Oh, I gotta write it down. That is so beautiful. Hold on.
Stop everything.
This is for you. This could be a book. Brave for you. This is you.
Yeah.
Because this is all about you. So be brave. Being rescued. What was the A for?
Oh,
Attentive.
Yep.
Attentively viewing everyone. Oh gosh, that's so good. This is for you, Kay Lee.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, that could be the name of your book, your solo book. Okay, and we'll say solo because we're not going to reveal that other part to everybody yet. Okay.
Okay.
That'll come at the very end. Okay. So business. Tell me a little bit about, share with our viewers a little bit about how you were drawn to business, right? We have plenty of time. We have 15 minutes. So share a little bit about your upbringing, in business, and then share a little bit about like your breakaway. Because I think we all have breakaways because that's what makes us a person, right? So if we only focused on our childhood, we would be stuck in that mentality of that developmental stage, right? Mm-hmm. But I think every human being has that breakaway where I don't want to be anything like them. I'm going to be myself, right? And then we realize not everything that was over here was bad, right? Share with viewers a little bit about your journey vocationally, entrepreneurially.
Okay. So I'm third generation entrepreneur. I grew up at the small business. My grandpa had a business as well. And my dad worked 6 days a week, wasn't home much at all. To this day, I don't know if he made it to my high school graduation. And I had 3 siblings, so 4 strong-willed children that my mom raised. It was really hard on our family. Ended up splitting up And I saw the struggles of the entrepreneurs having as far as how much time that they were putting into it and the families suffering. And also saw all the pluses. We would go on family vacations every year. We go to Bass Lake. Most of the people that I knew had their own business, so I just thought it was, most people had their own business. I didn't really know that many people that worked in corporate, and I saw the freedoms of that, and I really liked that. And so I ended up working in the family business for quite a while. I had a hard time saying no, and every time I wanted to leave, I felt very guilty and that I couldn't leave, and so I stayed until I got engaged. And then my husband lived, fiance at the time, over an hour away from the family business. And so my dad's like, "Oh, you'll just drive every day." And I'm like, "Nope." And I know in my mind, because my husband said, "Oh, we could move to where I was living." But I said, "No, I'm going to come to LA," because I knew that was my out to
Yeah.
start my new life, and that I'm not someone that loves to drive. And so there was no way I was going to drive at least an hour each direction. And so I got married, and then I moved to where my husband was. And so that kind of led, I won't get in that too much of that, how my husband and I came into having our own business, because I'm sure you want to talk about that on another show, but that's kind of how the start of that came together.
Okay. Wow, but you made a choice for you.
I made a choice for me. I wanted a different life. I
Yeah.
wanted something that uh, I was passionate about, something that I loved, not just something that could do,
Uh-huh.
was good at, or somebody else wanted me to do, because I didn't want to speak up and say, "No, this is your baby," because I felt bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some of the good business principles that you gleaned from, because you're the fourth generation of entrepreneurs, right?
Mhm.
So what are some of the good things that you gleaned from the environment that you were born and raised in?
The good things is I saw a lot of people, you can do whatever you want to do in this world. You know what I mean? And nothing's impossible. And the entrepreneurs kind of, I think we kind of tend to think that way. Like I'll come up with 100 million ideas for my husband. I'm like, "Honey, we need to do da da da, have all these businesses," because he's like very good at implementing. He's like, "Honey, you're overwhelming me. This is way too many." So I just think you can be as creative as you want. You can come up with these inventions. You can work your own hours. You can work from wherever you would like to. We was raised with the brick and mortar. I have a dream though, Sean, for Robert, my husband and I, to work in Hawaii for like a couple months at a time, because we work virtually, and that's totally doable. And some of the other things we do work vacations. We travel and see our clients and speak at different things, and we will add 2 or 3 days on to that trip. So we can go see, like we're going to be
That's
in Florida in April.
right.
So we can go visit and go on an adventure, and we have friends there. So those are some of the things that we love to do. Uh, we worked Saturday a couple weekends ago, and then we took Monday off and we went skiing. So
Right on.
we can be, you can make it what you want.
That's right. That's
You have
right.
the freedom to do that.
And I like your ideal of Hawaii. My just FYI, if you're looking for people to go with you, Steve and I are both people who can work, 15 hours out of a day, labor, right? We're like literally. And one, I just love my oldest son. He said to me recently, Mom, instead of you guys keep sewing into all of your kids, I think you guys just need to focus on yourself. What do you guys want to do? What do you guys are going to, And I was like, oh, we have spent the last 10 years focusing on the grandkids and the kids, right?
So what are you going to do?
I don't know. Well, I don't know, because I'm like you. My brain thinks like this, right? And so my lane right now is highlighting others. It's my happy place. It's my happy place to pull out of people and to see the beauty, because I believe like with what you're sharing, right? As you continue to walk forward in your journey, Kay Lee, you were going to give other people permission to step out and begin their journey, right? Mm-hmm. Like you said, I want people to know that there's hope, right? There's hope after divorce, right? There are people in religious communities that will be like, God hates divorce. And if you're to remarry, then your marriage isn't as good as theirs. Well, I'm sorry. That is not the God of the Bible that I've read, right? Mm-hmm. His mercies are new every day. God doesn't look at, somebody who, I've heard stories of people who stayed with the abuser for 25 years, but then all their kids live these tragic lives, right? And so we just have to be so cautious on comparing, right? Because every human being is uniquely created, right? And so I love what you're sharing with people. I also love, in listening to your guys' podcast, fun. Fun has to be a priority. It has to be a priority. So now I'm going to tell I can't wait for my husband to hear this, because now we're going to start thinking about Hawaii. What's a project that needs to be done in Hawaii? Father of the entire universe, right? We'll go work in Hawaii and do exploits for the king, right? Because there's always something going on, right? You'll like this, Kay Lee. I was in an open vision a couple of weeks ago. I call it during the night watch. The Lord woke me up to specifically pray over whatever he laid on my mind. And then I said something to him different. I said, okay, now that you woke me up, and I'm talking to him like this, right? Now that you woke me up, I would like to see something in heaven that I've never seen before. And I talked to him just like that, right? Mm-hmm. All of a sudden I see something that looks like this, and there's something that's life substance that is trying to push through this, right? Like trying to push through, like even one of these are bars, and there was a bar that was even bent because something was trying to push through it. And I'm like, what are you showing me? What is this? And I'm talking to him just like this, like, what are you showing me? What is this, Lord? And he says, they have not because they ask not. And I was like, okay, Lord, I need you to show me some more. Where are we going with this? I go, what is this, Lord? He says it's a holy grid. And I'm like, okay, I need you to show me, what are we talking about here, right? He said, Sean, up until this moment in human history, image bearers have received dreams, ideals, and inventions from the creator of the entire universe. But where we're going, he called this a holy grid. Where we're going, there are inventions and things on earth that need to be implemented that will only be given to the consecrated at heart. And I was like, oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. And so this life substance that's trying to come through are exactly what you talked about. Your brain has chosen to dwell, Kay Lee, in the creative realm of the Creator. This is where you dwell. And that's why you're always thinking of all these thoughts on all these different adventures, these business adventures or fun. This is where you are. You're in that creative realm, and that's a pure realm. So how could you encourage others? How could you encourage them? How do they do it? And what would be a step to access that creative realm? Because that's a happy place.
I love it. And I think that's one thing in the business world and couples, we don't have enough fun. Yeah. We're like so busy taking care of the kids, whatever we're doing. And so I'd say make a list. I just did a bucket list of 100 things that I want to do. Make a list of things that you like to do. You know what I mean? Like, that's fun for you. Is it going on a hike? Is it walking around the neighborhood? I mean, we just did free in Pasadena here. They had art night, and it was all the museums were free, and they had shuttles. And so you just get on the shuttle. So make a list with your spouse or yourself of your family of what things do you like to do, and then just plan them. I love going to the beach. I mean, if you live closer, Sean, I'd be like, come on, let's go to the beach.
And I can handle that every day, Kaylee, because I'm Greek, so my skin just sucks up. Well, right now I'm really light, but I'm Greek, and so my skin just sucks up the sun.
So I say allow yourself to have fun. Give yourself permission. Because I think sometimes that's challenging. We think, oh, we don't deserve it. I don't have time. We have all these excuses. But it doesn't have to be something that takes a long time either. You know, like I'll read like a good book. You know, sit down and read for 10 minutes. Maybe it's go out in the sunshine and get a little sun on your body. Get a little vitamin D for 5 minutes. Little things like that. Prayer time. It's another thing that I love to do. It's funny you're talking about dreams, because when I go to sleep at night, I pray for the Lord for dreams and visions and inventions and all those creative things. And I pray for the Lord to heal me in my sleep. Lord, if there's things that I need to be healed of, because, you know, we all have things that we're working on from childhood, I'm like, Lord, just heal me. Come on. And I want to be fearless. I'm like, Lord, when I'm in my dream, let me be fearless. If something looks scary, let me look it in the face. Let me walk towards it. Because I know sometimes in my dreams, I feared like, oh my gosh, of somebody. And I've turned around and looked at them as they were walking the opposite direction. And they just kept on going. It was no big deal. But in my mind, I thought, oh my gosh, that guy's really scary. I don't know what to do. I need to hide. But it was no big deal. I'm like, oh my gosh, we could conquer so many fears in our dreams, because you can do anything in your dream, right? There's nothing to be afraid of. I mean, and sometimes I'll be like, Lord, like if it's scary, I'll be like, Jesus. And then all of a sudden there he is. I want to be able to do that when I dream and bring the Lord in. So those are some ideas.
I love it, Kaylee, because my favorite time of the day is when I get to go to sleep, right? Because that's where I call it my pure, selfish time with the Lord, where I only get to think about he and I, right? Because decades I went to bed, you know, where I'd go to bed at night and I'd slaughter myself because I didn't accomplish what I thought I needed to, or, you know, just psychoanalyze myself in not a good way, right? But then once we got past all of that through healing, right? Then it's like, Lord, where are we going to go tonight?
Well, and I loved it. Dr. Dobson, I heard this years ago, he would tell his kids when they would go to sleep, okay, you can have as many goodies and desserts and food as whatever you want in your dreams. You can just eat to your heart's content. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that. You know, the ice cream and the goodies.
That's right. So if we were to think of a step, right, to add another step, it could be, when you retire in the evening, how are you going to allow yourself graceful thoughts, right? How are you going to grace yourself, right? Because it's not just, and probably some people are going to gasp, and I'm okay with it. You'll get over it. But the beginning step isn't, and people are going to gasp, even to say this out loud, I'm just going to say it anyways. The beginning step doesn't have to be, I got to get my microphone. If you don't say yes to Jesus right now, then you can't go anywhere in life. Okay, it doesn't have to be that. Maybe you're not ready for that step, right? But learn grace. You know, it is okay to say, okay, to go back over a day, right? So learning grace. Give our viewers a final thought on learning grace, Kaylee.
Well, at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, while I'm in bed, I say, come up with 5-10 things you're grateful for. So when you go to sleep, you're in a happy place. You're not thinking of, oh my gosh, I didn't get all this done and I'm such a loser and da da da. No, you're sleeping thinking, oh my gosh, Lord, thank you for the sunshine. Thank you for my health, Lord. Thank you for my dog, you know, all the things. And then when you wake up, you're thanking the Lord. So that's a great way to start your day.
That's so good. And speaking of a dog, I love how one of the episodes I listened to of you guys were talking about your dog and your dog life in prayer time. Well, we say, okay, we tell our dog, we have a miniature wiener dog, right? we tell him, okay, Frinkles, come on, it's time for Bible study. And we go in my office, and that's where we sit to do our morning Bible study. And so I love how your dog knows what time it is too.
Yeah, pretty funny actually.
Oh gosh. So thank you so much for your time. What a blessing. Stay tuned, viewers, because we've got more to come. We're going to interview Kaylee's Robert, and then we're going to interview them as a team. And I'm really excited to I'm a visual. Hold on, I'm going to pull out a visual over here. I'm really excited to continue to open up the treasure chest of the Fukuas. So thank you. Any final thoughts? Because I don't want you to walk away thinking, oh, darn it, I wanted to share that.
I just want to say, dream the impossible. There's nothing that you can't do. And don't be afraid. Don't let anybody or anything hold you back, especially if the Lord's put it on your heart. You can do it.
That's right.
I believe in you.
Right.
Surround
That's
yourself
right.
with people that will encourage you and believe in you as well. And that don't let your past hold you back from anything that you want to do.
That's so good. That's so good. And then instantly a song came to me that I'll share with our viewers. And it goes, because I think in songs, and it goes, Ah, Lord God, thou hast made the heavens and the earth by thine great power. Ah, Lord God, thou hast made the heavens and the earth by thine outstretched arm. Nothing is too difficult for thee. Nothing is too difficult for thee. Great and mighty God, great in power, awesome indeed. And then the background said, awesome indeed. Nothing, nothing, absolutely nothing. Nothing is too difficult for thee.
Yay!
And that's for all of our viewers. Nothing is too difficult for you. And why not? Why not say yes? And so thank you, Kaylee. What an honor to get to spend this time with you. And I'm very excited for viewers to know more about you. I want to tell our viewers again, you can click on the more button. You'll find all the different ways and how to access Kaylee and their podcast. And you're just going to continue to be blessed as this week goes on. And so thanks again, Kaylee, and to all of our viewers for coming to this episode of SAGIONIC 1027. And until our next broadcast and our next guest, may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon thee always. Blessings. Bye.